Welcome back to Respect the Process. I am Kelly Hunter, and I am joined by my good friend and voice of Crimson Tide to Athletics, Chris Stewart. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just to say the weekend.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It was a very enjoyable weekend,
Even
which
the
is
rain.
rare. Even the rain. Well, of course, I was fine because we're
Again,
in
a
the
much
press
needed
box.
bath for
That's
a
right.
lot of stuff down there, folks.
I ain't going
included.
down there. I ain't going down there. It was. It's very rare, and I was talked to a couple other outlets about this today. Alabama's had phenomenal success.
Yes.
The series is not even close down there.
Right.
LSU's probably had more success than anybody else in Tuscaloosa, even though Alabama's won the majority of the games.
Mm-hmm.
But in Baton Rouge, for a place where they have been so good for so long against so many,
Yeah.
Alabama's one-loss record down there is absurd. That being said, seldom is a game ever anything but a nail-biter going to the fourth
never that
quarter
lopsided.
and in the final minutes.
No.
But this one was over. And you know what? It's the weirdest thing, too. The score wouldn't indicate it, but the fan reaction was that it was over the minute that Jaylen Moore scored from 39 yards out on the first touchdown of the game.
The
sense was, here, we ain't leaving yet, but we know what's coming.
You know it's over when the offensive coordinator leaves the box to come down and enjoy the end of the game, because rarely does he go, this thing's on autopilot. We got it. I'm just going to, let's get ice cream.
And you better believe he didn't come down unless he had the blessing of the head coach. But it was a dominating performance from the start. But again, that's the element of it that was so bizarre, was seeing the fan reaction, knowing that it was done. There was one other very brief moment where they got excited, late second quarter.
And Nussmeier was throwing into the end zone?
Well, no, it was 14-6, and they stopped Alabama on a 4th and 1 inside the 40.
Yep.
Inside their own 40 or 35 maybe even. I can't remember. But they got the momentum, and it's only a one-score game. And I'm like, come on, Alabama's really – you felt like they dominated, and here we go. It's only 14-6. And before you can get that thought clearly in your mind or shove it out of your mind, the defense forces a fumble.
Right.
They get the recovery,
the strip
sack, the recovery, and then 2-3 plays later, Alabama's in the end zone, and it was over. And they knew it. And as it started to rain just a little more, there was a good percentage that left at halftime. But, man, I have never seen, while there's still time remaining on the clock, I have never seen that much gold inside of Tiger Stadium, because it's the gold seats you could see because they were empty.
Okay, we're going to get back into that in just a second. But last night, a lot of hubbub. Because the second round of the college football playoff, which, again, I don't really know why we do this, because there's so much that still has yet to happen. But the biggest surprise, Georgia's out as of last night. Georgia out of the top 12. I think, again, as everyone has said to this point, it will play itself out.
Sure.
But I think most Alabama fans last night, when they saw that, okay, if we were to do this tomorrow, we're going to go to Bloomington and play Indiana, we'll take that one.
Send me tomorrow.
I think every day and twice on Sunday, we would love an opportunity to and Ohio State's going to get the first crack at Indiana in terms of a top 5 team.
Right.
Taking them on.
Here's the thing.
Your hot take on all this.
No, you're exactly right that it's going to play itself out. There was a time I used to get up in arms about all of it. This is a made-for-TV event. They can call it whatever they want. But they are trying to draw eyeballs. And I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm just saying it's garbage. And they really...
It's irrelevant at the time.
And look, I don't get that upset about it. I would be far more upset if I were sitting there as an Indiana fan or a BYU fan and go, wait a minute, we hadn't lost, and you're going to have us outside of... we're not going to get to host or get, in the case of Well, IU has to
IU
play
has.
first round as well, but these just don't make BYU's fourth, right?
Yeah.
And they would have to be because of that's the
Conference
assumption
champion
they would.
Conference
That's the
champion gets the
assumption
first
that they are the
spots.
conference champions. So that being said, it makes perfect sense that they would be there. But I would be far more upset today if I were Indiana and I were outside of where I am right now.
Undefeated and still playing in the first round.
No doubt.
And bringing a team like Alabama in to a stadium that is half the size probably of Bryant-Denny. I didn't look up that number. I'm making up facts here.
But help me on this. They are playing first round, are they not?
Yeah, they are.
Because it's playing Alabama. Mm-hmm. So they are having to. But they're going to have a chance
and then obviously
to play their way out of it.
With Georgia and Tennessee playing this weekend, that will eliminate one of the two.
Yeah.
Ole Miss playing its way in with a dominant performance against Georgia this past weekend.
No question. And as we know, with Lane Kiffin, he could easily play his way out. They could lose to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting them to. I'm just saying we know how that can work. And don't misunderstand me. I'm thrilled from Alabama's perspective. We ain't got to play Ole Miss in the regular season this year. But because that's the kind of game that would scare me as a Bama fan. But as an Ole Miss fan, I'm going to be worried about the game where we're probably not expected to have any problem. Because that can,
their Vandy game that jumps up and bites them in the ass. Yeah.
Just like Vandy, got us. But that happens far more often with Lane Kiffin coach teams than we've seen it happen historically in the brief window of time we've had with Kalen DeBoer as a collegiate head coach at the Division I level.
We might have to bring out Kelly's big board again next week because it's going to get interesting. There is right now a slim chance for an 8-way tie in the SEC for the conference champion. There's a better chance for a 7-way tie for second place. It is going to get interesting when we start looking at the head-to-head matchups. And so much what people are talking about this year is there's talk of parity or there's talk of opportunity. Nick Saban brought up a great point saying that the reason we're seeing so much of this is because all of these mega conferences now where the teams have to play each other as a conference game versus scheduling out one of these big games. But you also hear parity because of the transfer portal and, you've got 2 lost teams. But I saw a great line today. It was in The Athletic by Mitch Sherman. And he said, if the playoff spits out a combination of Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, any combination in the New Year's Day semifinals, we know all of this unpredictable regular season has only served as window dressing.
Probably.
Saying that even looking at that big board that we have for the college football playoff, if 4 of the regulars come out of it, and we don't have a TCU, we don't have an outlier that's coming in. And I'm not even going to say Washington was an outlier last year, but...
Here's the thing, though. Your Final Four are probably going to be the power programs because you're opening up an opportunity. You want to call it opportunity, that's fine. It's a chance for them to get money for their leagues or for their programs.
Which is why
that's really what they want.
Which is why we have the SMUs or the Boise States and hey, I went to a mid-major. I love a good mid-major story. I love seeing them be able, give us a shot. Let us see what we can do in there. If I'm Army, I'm kind of jumping up and down in the background hoping, but I don't know that if Army had to come to Tuscaloosa.
God, man, can you imagine?
That would be
I hear
intense.
what you're saying.
I'm just saying that would just...
Can you imagine Alabama going to West Point to play in a playoff?
Okay, that would be the game of a lifetime to be able to attend.
That would be, as much as I'd prefer to be in Tuscaloosa, dear Lord, would that be cool.
That would be the game of a lifetime.
As long as we win, that would be so cool.
But, again, going back to, there is some parity, but also there's more opportunity right now for teams to be playing each other and also having more 2-loss teams because of the fact that you have these teams playing within conferences with each other.
Right. It's if it winds up being 2 SEC teams playing for the national championship again, it'll be glorious. after all of this, after all the shuffling of the deck, because we're going to get to 16 because they're going to pay money for it and because the conferences are going to take it and the schools are going to take it. And we're there. And if we're going to have 12, we may as well have 16.
Yeah. If we have 16, let's just go to 24.
Okay. But that's what it all comes down to. If you can have 16 at every other level of college football for your playoff, and you're going to have one, and you're going to go beyond the 4 that we're already doing, why would you not just go ahead and have, if you're going to skip 8, if you're going to go from 4 to 12, why not just go ahead and have 16? So
how far down the pike is that?
They'll see how much money they make this time, and they probably have a good grasp of it. But the ratings will determine that on top of what they're already getting in sponsor money, what they can go back for if they feel they can with an additional 4 teams.
Well, and also for the schools to get an additional home game. 4 more schools getting an additional home game with a quality opponent coming in.
Right. Although the top 4 would rather have a bye than they would. Well, coaches and players would rather have a bye. The ones that have to write the checks and figure out budgets, they want another home game.
Okay. Speaking of checks and meal tickets, Jaylen Milroe with a weekend, unlike any other, particularly to do this in Baton Rouge. 4 touchdowns, 185 yards rushing. I know we've heard this. Passing was almost irrelevant. It was pleasant to have there, but we really didn't need it. But, early in the season, we had talked about Milroe for Heisman.
Yeah.
That seems to have gotten lost in the wash a little bit with your Travis Hunters, with your Ashton Gentys at Boise State. Come on. Will he?
Who are they running against? Who are they playing against? I'm not saying they're not worthy.
I know, but in your opinion, will he get an invitation into New York City by December?
It's going to be, if he continues, if he has another game against either Oklahoma or Auburn, anywhere close to what he had in the most recent matchup in Baton Rouge, I'm not saying he's got to have those numbers, but if he has anything close to it and he's not invited, that's absurd. But we've seen absurdity.
Yeah.
Again, that's a made-for-TV deal. And sometimes the made-for-TV part is the conversation where somebody you think should get invited doesn't get invited. So he is absolutely, not just for this year, even though that's what it's supposed to be about, what have you done this year for his career? Yeah, I would have no problem. I know he's had a couple off weeks, but everybody does.
He looked the freshest that we've seen him
I could not agree
since
more.
the beginning of the season, in my opinion.
That was big. For him to get whatever amount of time he got off during the 2 weeks, and I have no idea what the practice schedule with him was like, but he looked, just like you said, extremely well rested, fresh, ready to go, and, get me in the playoff, and I don't care who we play. Based on what we've seen with Kalen DeBoer getting an extra week to prepare for somebody, I will absolutely take my chances on wherever we have to go, whoever we have to play, first round of the playoffs if you get 2 weeks off, because that's what it would be. You'd have even if you go to the SEC championship game, you still would get a week off before you have the December 20th playoff game. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether the value in being the SEC champion and getting the bye, or not having to play in the SEC championship, getting that week, and then having to go play. I'm sure that there is a strategy with which coaches are kind of turning these things over in their head, deciding.
And look, you're going to try to win a league title regardless, but
there's always a little.
Well,
there's
but
an
I
escalator,
think
but yes, I know
if
what you're saying.
If you can find a way to win that title, to get the week off going into the playoffs, yes, there's an advantage there.
At halftime, we were sitting there talking, and I said, this offense looks like they are utilizing the players that they have finally and their skills versus necessarily trying to operate an offense and trying to put these guys in. Because Jaylen Milroe will never be Michael Penix, and nor should he. But the offense that they operated Saturday night was one that everybody's sitting there going, why haven't we been doing this all season?
Well, 12 months ago, we're doing the exact same thing.
I know. And I know that, and I know, and every year you're almost going to have a new quarterback.
If that, or you're going to have a new coordinator.
Yeah.
And so understanding who you've got and what works best for them is not an easy thing to do, especially when it's a brand new staff that's come in. It's one thing when you got a new coordinator, that's a challenge enough, but when you've got an entirely new staff, so the players have got to learn something new. They've got to learn the players themselves. They got to learn what works best for them. So clearly they're identifying that, and Jaylen being healthier, it appears. And I say that healthier. I don't know that he's been hurt. I'm just saying how it looks.
Oh, yeah, no, without question. He looked like a different quarterback.
Whether it's confidence or physical improvement, I don't know. I just know that he clearly looked better than he has looked in a while, and that was great to see. I'll tell you another big part of what I think's helped with the offense. No matter how good you are, when you're a freshman, you're going to start to feel the grind of a college season. Happens in basketball,
Absolutely.
Happens in football. Ryan Williams is not getting hit every single play, but you're getting hit harder and you're getting hit more than you've ever been hit, because most high school kids can't catch him. Practices, even though they scale some things down, there's still a physicality that you don't experience when you're playing in high school ball. So that starts to take a toll, even though, again, you do things to try to manage all of that and lessen the wear and tear as best you can. But even though he's as good as he is, they start to figure some things out on you. He and Jeremy Bernard were clearly the two best guys. There were other options, but they were easily the two best. Well, now Kendrick Law is healthy.
Yeah.
And that is
Very
a
healthy.
major addition to what they're doing on offense. The ground game's starting to figure it out. They're running it more effectively.
Well, and the block, using the running backs to block as well.
No doubt.
That was, I think, it's something we obviously had not seen yet to this point of okay, I like that too.
But you add Kendrick Law as both a receiver and a return man, and not a return man, but as a runner,
right?
And some of the misdirection and underneath stuff, and it's a different weapon, it's a different dynamic, and it's going to make, as people start to pay more attention and more respect to him, it's going to make Ryan and Jeremy even more effective. They had Ryan on a deep ball in the first half, and it was the hardest that it was raining the entire night. I thought initially, as I was calling it, that Jaylen had overthrown him, but he really didn't.
Was that the one where Jaylen had to scramble back and then
Ryan
was on? I couldn't remember who that was when.
I don't think he had to scramble.
Okay.
I think it was just a deep post, and he had 3 steps on the guy, and caught up to it. You could argue that maybe it was a tad overthrown, but the bigger issue, he's looking back into what was the heaviest rain of the night, and he couldn't come up with it.
Yeah.
Great effort, great throw, not a routine play, but one that I think in different weather conditions they make, and it's 7 more, and you're up 28 to 3 or 6, whatever, 6 at halftime. But that was one. I'm just saying, those opportunities for those guys are getting greater and greater, because now they're having to spend a little bit of attention on number one. And when Kendrick Law is part of the defensive worry, it's going to create even more for those other guys, and that's going to be even more of a lethal combination for opposing defenses.
You talk also about maturity and experience, and the fact that the offensive line this year, with Caden Proctor having another season under his belt, having the opportunity to have Tyler Booker on his right, not giving up a sack, just literally controlling the line all night to provide gaps. Like that was a huge difference in 12 months.
I got to go back and look. But somebody mentioned this to me today, and I have no reason to doubt them. That procedure penalty on the first snap, before the first snap of the game.
I think everybody was just like,
I know I was. Here we go again.
Going back to Knoxville. All right, hold on, everybody. Buckle up.
It was the only offensive flag of the game.
It was.
That's amazing. In those conditions, in that environment, and to have that type of discipline to avoid any other penalties was incredible, and to not give up any big plays defensively as well, because you did such a good job on the line.
Well, it's like DeBoer said, you make your own breaks, which
Yeah.
obviously the defense did, held them back time and time again. Interesting, I heard that, there's really not a way to go about this, but that they played everything wet last week.
Yeah.
They had players wet, wet balls, wet players, you name it. That can be taken out of context in a lot of ways, but
Just waiting on you to dig yourself out
that's
of that
okay.
hole.
Well, no, because I was going to want to see if you could grace us with whatever rendition that was of DeBoer that you had your on your call, something going into break.
Oh.
It was like a hoedown or something. I'm not quite sure.
I did not.
What?
There was no mention of it was take. Oh, I know where you're going with that.
Yeah. Get your bow.
The song Louisiana Saturday Night,
Yeah.
which they play quite a bit.
Yes.
They should. They got some awesome music and traditions. And normally, we're here in Hold That Tiger.
Oh yeah.
Which is, it's too late.
I
That
felt bad
tiger's
for that
got
damn
hold
tiger.
of you.
Gosh. That thing just
Also,
parading around getting wet.
calling Baton Rouge, which they were calling 911
Yeah.
because of where things were going. But Tom Stipe and I had talked earlier in the week. We're just kind of joking about what we hoped would happen. And I don't remember which one of us, but collectively, I think we came up with get down your fiddle, get down your bow, and basically couldn't beat Saban. But what I did say, because they have beaten Saban, they beat him 2 years ago, rarely beat Saban, and apparently can't beat DeBow.
Okay.
And so, poetic license with
good.
the last name.
It was good.
It fit.
It was good.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
They didn't mean anything disrespectful towards LSU. It's just winning's fun, and it's rare.
Yeah.
And you
Enjoy it.
You hear all the talk,
Especially on the road.
about where dreams, Les Miles is where dreams go to die.
Saturday
And they
night,
do.
Death Valley.
They do for everybody
Except
but Alabama. And I have no explanation as to why, but thank goodness that's the case.
They own that joint. Got Mercer coming up this weekend. It'll
Do.
be a nice opportunity for, as we know, a lot of folks to be able to go take their kids, enjoy the
Yep.
game, early kickoff, and just an opportunity again to create some depth, hopefully, and get some guys
better.
some rest. Yeah.
Get hopefully, because
Don't lose ground at this point. I think that was the message. Everybody is, there's no going back.
Well, again, was it about 10 years ago? Nick Saban's Crimson Tide went to the locker room tied with the Citadel.
Yes.
10-10.
Oh yeah.
I really wanted to slip into the back of the locker room at halftime just to
You couldn't hear him from the press box?
what paint being peeled
Yeah,
would
actually
sound like.
sounded
But he
like-
would, again, whenever you think Nick Saban was going to go one direction, he went another, and it was calm, and it was, other coaches may have been going nuts, but he was, here's what we're going to do. Now, he got them, I'm sure, on Monday or on Sunday, but it was pretty calm at that time. I say that to say Mercer's far better than the Citadel was that year.
Oh no, Mercer's
So they can. They're in the playoffs for the FCS,
yes.
and so we'll, should there be a problem? Of course not. But you want to play well. You want to play efficient because, as I've said many times, to me, if you're a starter, you've got a responsibility to those third and fourth string guys who never get to play to take care of business so they get some playing time.
Well, again, Tyler Booker, who I love to listen to and quote, he was saying he is now an upperclassman, and it's his responsibility to really kind of batter down on the first and second string guys and the younger guys. That's your job now.
Right.
And your job is also to get better, but your job is also to expect
to lead.
To lead and expect excellence from the guys behind you and next to you.
And you lead by doing stuff the right way yourself, but also getting in somebody's ear or worse when they're not doing the right thing.
Looking over at basketball, both Arkansas State and McNeese gave Alabama their best shot, which they're going to get every time they hit the floor right now. Still number 2 in the nation, but getting ready to hit the road for the first time, going up to Purdue. West Lafayette.
West Lafayette. I've been there a couple of times, and it's great basketball
Indiana,
venue.
yep.
It won't be an issue this game, but for a couple of these games after the opener, where there's all kinds of excitement about that, I think this Alabama team will. Its biggest issue, not complacency, but boredom. Yeah. Complacent says that you think you're so good you can just show up and win. Alabama came out, played well. I didn't see the beginning of the Arkansas State game. I know they played well early in the game the other night against McNeese. But when they got up 21, it was almost like they got bored. And that's a McNeese team that won 30 games last year, has just about everybody back, and is expected to win their league.
Yeah.
Again, it has a good coach in Will Wade. Say what you want, and boy, many times I have when it comes to that guy. But he's a good coach. He's got great talent, and Alabama took the foot off the gas, and they took it from 21 down to 6. They chipped it down, and then Bama made sure they were at arm's length the rest of the way. But you got that behind you, and these guys are all veterans. They know what they're going into. They know who they're going to play. The thing is, and that's what Nate Oates is going to remind them, it's why you can't slop around, for lack of a better phrase, in the other games and then just flip the switch and make it happen against somebody like Purdue. You better be getting better,
right?
Especially in these early weeks,
right?
As this team is still coming together and understanding what the rotation will be, and who knows? I mean, good grief, they got 11 guys right now that could start for almost anybody in the country.
Right. And then you watch a team like Kentucky play against Duke last night with a new coach, new guys, and you're like, they're pretty good too.
Yeah, they are.
Getting ready for. But it's going to be interesting, hitting the road for the first time, 6 o'clock Friday night. And then next week, again, Illinois comes in town, too.
They do play them in Birmingham, and still some tickets for that left, by the way. If you're watching in Birmingham, don't just assume that.
Just circling around the.
Yeah, don't just assume that, we're selling so many tickets that we can't get in. No, you can. But I'd get them right now because I think, especially if Alabama takes care of business in West Lafayette, you're going to have a ton of attention for that game with Illinois. It's, Big Ten opponent, big night on a Wednesday. I got a coach's show to do, unfortunately, with football, and I'll miss it. But I'll be still sitting there at Baumhower's watching it on television and checking it out. But it's going to be a heck of a ball game, and need everybody there that can be there.
Real quick. Open the box. Just get a shot of the ice here. I wanted to see it. Get a shot of the ice. It is a thing of beauty. Oh my gosh, I know.
I know there's a
tight shot. There you go. Look at that.
Go.
Look at that.
That's a nice.
He's got people walking him to his car.
Yeah. Well, I have to do that a lot of places for a lot of reasons.
So that is the Western Region
Championship ring. That's a beautiful ring. They were kind enough to share.
Chris was telling me everything. It's very intentional, everything that they have on there. I'm always fascinated by those.
Yes, but you asked me to bring that in, so I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's for me. I'm like, I'm a heartbeat away from a Western Region champion ring.
We'll just forget the heartbeat. We'll just put it over there for you.
Hold on just a second. Okay.
Be still your heart.
But as we know,
we can go to prom with me now.
That's right. As we all know, we can always find you at chrisstewart.online.
Correct.
When you are not on
all the
radio,
social media links are there, and
you're
excited about what's coming up.
Did you hear that?
Don't break the counter here at the next round.
Okay.
Yeah.
A big thanks to Scott Forrester and Tyler, everybody back there, for their immense talent and always being nice to us. And for Tim Melton, everybody up here at Disrupt Media. And, of course, you can find everything you need at Cover Crimson. Next Round Live every single day, all the time, everything. Before we go, we will hit the air for Mercer at...
That is a 1 o'clock kick, so we go on the air at 10 a.m.
That's decent.
Breakfast, late brunch with Bama. How about that?
You'll be home by dinner time.
Sure.
You'll be home for a late dinner in time to watch the Tennessee-Georgia game that night, so... Or not.
I will.
Or not.
I will be watching.
Okay, well, a big thanks. I am Kelly Hunter, Chris Stewart, and before we go...
Roll Tide.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.